And we're off.
And we're off.
Here we are.
Well, welcome to the Gotta Have Miami podcast. Today is episode
17.
And behind us is the Barnacle, which is right there. We're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to it in a few minutes. But again, we missed the Friday podcast. Why?
You were golfing.
Golfing. And did I win?
I think so.
I won some money. We made some money. Glenn and I, my member, who invited me as the guest, because Biltmore is very, very ritzy, and we actually won our second day tier, and we made some coin.
Congrats!
Yeah, so it wasn't too bad. It was a lot of fun, and it was a good time.
Yep.
So we didn't win the whole thing, but we did win something.
Well, then that justifies skipping a
That
podcast.
justifies,
I guess.
Exactly. That justifies those. And if you hear some little noise in the background from a drilling and stuff like that, that's actually a property that we recently closed on because the Barnacle is located right beside Avatar, and we have done some business in Avatar. We have a closing coming up
On Friday.
So we have a new closing coming up on Friday, which you will know about later on.
So if you would like this to be your
Exactly.
view
Give us
out
a
of your
call.
backyard, call us.
Give us a call. We'll
hook you up.
We'll hook you up. So, Ash, you wanted to do something from a historical content, right?
I want to do that because I feel that my generation, the younger generation, doesn't know. You talk to me about Miami history like it's common knowledge, and some of it is, but a lot of it isn't. And I just think it's so interesting how it all plays into real estate. And I think it would be nice to talk about the past, and then we could see how it relates to what's going on today.
Okay, so all right, so let's start. We're starting at the Barnacle, which is the oldest home in Miami-Dade County,
Right here.
and that you're looking at right now is actually quite an interesting little story. It was built by Charles Monroe, Commodore Charles Monroe, back in the late 1800s,
Right,
1891,
1891, you said?
somewhere in there. And that's not the original. Well, it's the original structure, but one of the cool parts about it is it was at one time just one level. And what they did is, as his family was expanding, he actually had to raise it up, and instead of knocking it down, they actually used railroad pylons, and they built it up, and that's the second floor. So they had a first floor, and now we have our second floor.
Very
So
cool.
that's 2 floors. So.
And we're looking at, over by the water side, the boathouse that he built, which also has a living quarters on top.
And living quarters up on top, and it's all. You know what? I love boathouses. We're going to have a story about that one day. I love boathouses because they're like garages for boats, but they're really, really cool. And if you kayak down the inner coastal,
I was going to say a
water.
house sat for somebody who had a boathouse, and you would open up the master bedroom window, and
Really
you were
cool.
looking at your boat in the boathouse.
Really cool.
Very cool.
Very, very, very cool.
Yeah. I don't house it anymore.
Right,
by
so
the way.
we're actually getting off topic as we usually do on a very easy. So going back to the Barnacle, a little bit of history, and I think Ashley, you mentioned that maybe I had lived some of this history. Like I go back
Were
to the
you
1800s.
around in the 1800s?
Who knows? Maybe,
Do you remember that period?
maybe I was. I am an old Grove resident, but I think the Barnacle is actually a very interesting story. Charles Monroe comes down and creates this home for his family. He's from Staten Island. He is a boat builder. We're not going to get into a lot of the details because, again, this history has been put out there many, many times. And he has friends, which are the Peacocks, Isabel and Charles. Charles Peacock.
Charles.
So they are innkeepers. And I think one of the things that we're talking about is when we're talking about the new version of Coconut Grove. It's really the same story being told over and over and over. You had folks that came in this case from Staten Island in England. They came in, they started with a home, with a family, and then they build a business, which is the Peacock Inn, or back at I think originally was the Bayview House.
Right, this is the first hotel in Miami.
First hotel in Miami. So they build the Bayview House. People start to come in. You start to get all of these eccentric individuals that come in, which is still Coconut Grove is known for.
You're calling us eccentric.
We are. We're a little. We have our moments, and but you start to see a pattern build, and then you have the Bahamian, which is Mariah Brown, is one of the first employees for the Peacock home. Her home is still currently here. She also was what?
The first black homeowner or property owner, and to top it off, she's female.
Yeah, she's a female. So sometimes when you hear about history, you start to see that some things have already happened. And Mariah Brown's house still stands. It is in a political mess. I remember when I was with the village council, I tried to see if I could jumpstart some of the finishing there, and actually nothing happened. It was tied up between 2 or 3 groups, and it was a hot mess.
It's a messy situation.
And yeah, and that property is still there, still sitting the same way it was when I was chair back in 2015. And it's a shame because the home is right there on Evangelista Street or Charles Avenue.
Okay.
But again, we go through the whole story, we go through the whole motion, and then you also start to see E.W.S. Stirrup come in. He is the first black millionaire at the turn of the century.
Right.
They build out many homes for the Bahamian settlers that were doing a lot of the work here in early Coconut Grove. And then he actually passes in I think 1957, and his home was just restored, which is right beside the Playhouse. You'll see this beautiful yellow 2-story wood frame home, and they actually did a great restoration for it.
Nice.
But again, you start to see that everything starts to evolve and starts to be kind of a domino effect.
Yeah.
One person becomes 2 people, becomes 5 people, and at the end of the beginning of the 1900s, Coconut Grove had about 125 residents, which was a big deal, especially seeing as you were in a mosquito pit. So you were a hardy individual.
And
down here.
you still had Indians out here.
Yeah, the Tequestas were here.
You still had Indians. It's just interesting that, you know, a person, a family comes here with money, and then they create industry, and the industry needs workers to support it, and that's where you bring in the Bahamians. Right. Yeah. They come over for the work, and all of that requires infrastructure. You need roads, you need railroads. So it's just interesting to see now. Of course, Miami is an established city.
Right.
We have roads and railroads and all this, but we have new money, new people, new corporations coming into Miami. That's going to bring new workers, right? And this phenomenon of gentrification
has been going on for a long time.
And you know, it's just become a little bit more civil. I know that a lot of folks don't like gentrification.
Right.
I mean, but it's been going on for hundreds of years. We go back hundreds of thousands of years ago. It was just war.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just conquer.
Yeah.
Now it's a little bit more business. You know, we're conquering with business.
But it still goes down to the same fact that one individual, one prominent individual or somebody can generate so much interest in an area.
Yeah.
And then that person then becomes and brings their friends or relationships. And we're seeing it again in Coconut Grove now with a lot of the Northeast coming down.
Correct.
You have prominent folks that come down here. They are enticed by either development aspects. I remember back in the day, we had actual builders that would go to South America to promote their products.
Right.
So then that's when you all of a sudden saw a rash of South American type of buyers. Well, what we're seeing now is we're seeing that the powers that be, the big players that are out there, be it Related, be it Comras, be it some of the other big New York names, they actually are promoting a product, and that is why you're starting to see more of the Northeast come down, outside of COVID, obviously, because and also, as I've mentioned, the tax cut that Mr. Trump put in 2017. Yeah, big. But again, I think it just becomes word of mouth, and it's no different now than it was back at the beginning, at the turn of the century.
I mean, at the turn of the century, people were coming here for the weather.
Yeah,
and people are still coming here for the weather.
Yeah, and it is true. And back then, it was you were running away from tuberculosis, you were running away from cold weather, that you didn't have any of the cures, and actually that's where the Monroe family came down. By the way, the Monroes owned this, I think, until like 1972, 73.
Yeah, very recent.
Yeah, and then they gave it, and the family still lives in Coconut Grove. So you'll see them running around. And one of the interesting parts is that I believe Ralph Monroe's first. I think we called him Charles. It's Ralph.
Oh yeah, we did call him Charles. It's Ralph Monroe.
Sorry, Charles.
And
I think
Charles
is the son.
Peacock, and then there's Kirk Monroe. That they say that the Monroes are not related. but they claim to be cousins in person. So like, you know how we have Miami cousins?
Mm-hmm.
They started
They started.
they started it.
So again, we're getting better. We're correcting our errors right at the very beginning. So and actually, Ralph Monroe's first wife is buried over by the Peacock Cafe by the Women's Club.
Right across the street from the Glass and Vine restaurant, right across Main Highway there.
Yeah, and it's very interesting.
Or Bayshore Drive, actually.
Right. And if you go there, you'll actually see the picture of the grave site back when it was back in the day.
No buildings.
No buildings.
No buildings.
No nothing out there. So again, I think one of the topics we're gonna touch upon these little historic elements every once in a while, and they're gonna be based on just general areas.
Yeah.
You asked me about the Peacocks. Did the Peacocks bring in the Peacocks?
I know. When I heard the names, their last name's Peacock, I'm like, these have to be the people that brought the Peacocks to Coconut Grove.
No, it was Carl Fisher who actually built out Miami Beach.
And did he do the Fisher Island too? Is that why it's called Fisher Island?
I'm not sure about that. We can research it,
We'll
but I
have
know
to
it was
research.
mostly Miami Beach. I think. You know what? I think so. If I go back into the old people head and not Google anything, I think he may have had it as a marina boat club, because that was a big thing to go fishing back in the days, and that's really one of the things that Carl Fisher. So they were big into fishing.
So he's the one that brought the Peacocks.
Yes, he was the Peacocks. He also brought elephants. He was a big,
good thing
big
the
promoter.
elephants didn't take off.
They didn't take off. Yeah, thank God that didn't work out. So I think anything else that we need to talk about. But again, we're going to touch on these, and I think the gist of this little episode is just simply that the thing that we said it. It's always the same thing. We haven't invented anything. All we're doing is reinventing ourselves.
I love the example that we talked about earlier. You said that Amazon's just like your old Sears catalog.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And the old saying is, if you build me a better mousetrap, the world will beat a path to your door. Yeah. So all we're doing was just reinventing. We're just changing materials. And again, I think we see that in all the structures that we look at. We call some stuff historic, and if you're looking at a 40s home or a 50s home, you know the cast iron is going, the electrical could be old, and you need to refurbish. And it's a continuous
cycle.
It's a continuous cycle that we keep updating. So we'll touch on some of these along. We have a closing coming up.
We do. We have a closing this week. It's a big move.
Yep.
It's one of those moves that there's
It's
people.
life altering.
Yeah, there's people who move every couple of years because they like to. Yeah. And then there's the person that buys their first home and stays in it forever, or buys a house, and stays in it for 30 plus years. And it's just one of those, it's just one of those emotional moves. Yeah. Lots of stuff, big house. So we got our work cut out for us. Yeah. We've been working on this for a while. So
yeah, again, when you look at what we do, we do actually a lot more than just, show homes and open closets and say, oh, this is a closet. This is your kitchen.
And I closed on my condo nightmare house.
You did.
That was a nightmare, but that nightmare's over.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny, the buyers, they were understandably very upset through the whole process. We had to keep delaying closing because of condo, and all those issues are totally out of my hands. And they were very upset, very understandable. And it's just like, as soon as they close, like, they just forget it even happened.
Exactly.
It's kind of like childbirth, I swear. It was so painful during the time of trying to close on this deal. Right. And literally, as soon as they get the key, it's like they forgot everything that happened.
There you go. Childbirth, real estate. All right. That's a great analogy. Haven't heard that one before. But that's good.
So that was good. Congratulations to them. They know who they are. So yeah, we can wrap it up for today. We don't want to bore you with too many Miami facts.
We're gonna touch on the harbor, or as I called it, the Grove Harbor, and I got chastised. We got hammered for that.
It's Regatta Harbor.
Yeah, it's not even Regatta Harbor.
Oh, so we have to.
We can go back on that. I was actually involved with that when I was running for the village council, and that was part of a big Sasky plan, which is
it's underway.
Yeah, to do it, and actually Regatta Park was one of the main things that was done on that. So
yeah,
we're going to give you a little bit of history, but we're always going to try to sprinkle in. And there's a big thing coming up, which is the Mel Reese,
the soccer
stadium, which is not a soccer stadium; it's a real estate play. If you haven't seen Billy Corbin's video, it's actually quite funny. Sorry, Billy, if I used your name in vain. But
we'll share it on our Instagram.
Yeah, it's actually really
check it out there.
It's actually a very funny video. So we'll see how that plays out.
All right, so just back to Barnacle. We'll promote this park because it's one of my favorites in Miami. Opens at like 10 a.m., closes at sundown. They do require like a $2 entrance, but it is on the honor system. So you could, if you're coming to walk your dog or whatever, you come walk your dog. You have a wedding here, a party here. It's a great place. Come
and
check
just
it
make
out.
sure the hours, because it kind of doesn't open on the weekend, so it's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah, check the hours.
Yeah, check
Very
out the
Miami
hours.
schedule.
Very Miami. All right, so guys, thank you for joining us, and we'll be back on Friday, hopefully, unless I'm playing golf.
Have a beautiful week. Bye.
Take it easy.